report. If Josie is here with us tonight, Josie Gutierrez.
Hi, I'm here. My name is Josie Gutierrez with LA County Public Works, but actually we'll start with Jordan Cachanese. He will be giving some information about the Acton Agua Dulce shuttle service. Jordan, can you unmute yourself, please? Most of them are already in the agenda, but basically the household hazardous waste and e-waste collection drive-through events are happening the first and third Saturday of each month. This is the one in Antelope Valley Environmental Collection Center in Palmdale. So the next one is on April 20th. There's also
Josie, I'm here, sorry.
Temporary. After I give my report, Jordan, then I'll get back to you. There's also a temporary household hazardous waste in Santa Clarita. This April 20th also, it's on the at the College of the Canyons South parking lot. I'll email you the flyer for it, Mary. And then a few items happening also. We have the free mattress recycling collection event. The closest one for Agua Dulce is on April 27th. That's the one on in Sierra Highway in our Palmdale yard. And then another tire collection event happening on April 20th. That's also in our Sierra Highway Palmdale yard. Let me see. Chris, as far as the Sierra Highway, and then the last item that I have is the North County Trash Collection Services. Used to be called Garbage Disposal District. We're still working on the EIR. We're hoping to have it released for public review before the summer, so maybe end of May, early June. So we'll be reaching out. Once it's released, we'll be reaching out to the town council to basically make a brief presentation about it, see if the community has any questions. But the main thing is, from my understanding, is the EIR is now focusing on the franchise system, both residential and commercial, instead of the garbage disposal options. That's kind of been taken out because I guess from what we heard, from previous, the initial mitigated neg deck that was prepared about a year and a half ago, there were some concerns from the residents about having the fee being added in the property tax. So that's the garbage disposal option is being ruled out. So let me see. That's basically all I have, unless, one last thing. For those of you that are interested, we have a virtual meeting on the 16th for the LA County Bikeway Master Plan. That's on April 16th at 6 p.m. Basically, right now, Public Works is updating the Bikeway Master Plan, and so this is an opportunity for the community to provide input on the Master Plan.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Perfect. Wonderful. Now we're going to hear from Jordan.
Jordan?
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I want to just update everybody on the Acton Agua Dulce shuttle service, the transit that we have there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with that, but it's a small route. It has some stops. It also has what we call curb to curb, where you can get picked up for the seniors and they can go to their appointments. And so we have based on some customer input and public input, we have made a few changes to this schedule. If you look on your agenda, there's a link to the new schedule. It's basically the route has not changed much. The route structure is the same. It starts in Santa Clarita, goes out via Sierra Highway, and comes back. The big difference is we're starting it now at Santa Clarita Metrolink station as opposed to Newhall. There's been input that it's a more central location, easier to get to, needed locations, and this allows for much more curb-to-curb abilities for our passengers. So everybody's wanted that. It allows you to get into Santa Clarita earlier, do your appointments and go back. And also, it used to stop at the old senior center. I think it was on Market.
Right.
And now the senior center's changed, so we're not gonna have to go down there by Newhall as much. So it's gonna start in Santa Clarita and go out and come back. And so we also wanted to make it a point that the board will be approving continuation of this contract for this service on June 4th, recommending the current service provider for the next 5 years. And so if there's any questions, we can answer those.
Great. Wonderful. Does anybody have any questions for Jordan? Looks like we're clear. Well, thank you very much for the report. We look forward to using that service.
Don, I have a question for Josephine.
Yeah.
Josephine, I noticed that there is a survey marker in a rock embankment on the north side of Sierra Highway, about a quarter of a mile east of the junction with, Davenport Road. And it's fairly recent, and I just wondered whether there's quite often bits of car there. It's the Rockus embankment is very close to the side of Sierra Highway there. Is it the plan of Public Works to perhaps widen Sierra Highway a little bit there? Is that what the survey monument is all about?
I would have to check. I'm not aware of any proposed widening, but definitely I'll check and see what is that. Because I know they're also looking at installing some, curve advisory sign along Sierra Highway. So I don't know if that has to do with it or maybe relating to the paving project, but let me find out and get back to you on that, Chris.
Yeah, it's actually where you've already paved, so the paving has already been redone. That was
already done.
phase 3, whatever it was, but it recently appeared with a large pink circle sprayed around it, and it's probably about 6 or 8 feet up on the side of the hill. So I just wondered if it was part of a project.
So it's on Sierra Highway, about a quarter mile east of Davenport Road.
Yeah, it's on the north side of Sierra Highway. It's just past that little religious shrine where the tree is.
Okay.
And it's an area where people have had several accidents where they managed to run into the side of the hill there.
Okay. Let me see what I can find out and get back to you with that.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Perfect. Thank you, Josie. We appreciate you coming to the meeting tonight and taking on the questions and giving the report. Next up, we have the report from the 5th District to Stephanie English, if Stephanie's here with us. I don't hear her, nor do I see her.
And I just sent her a text to see if she was planning on coming in, and I haven't heard. So I haven't heard anything from her. So.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Josie again. For under item the illegal trucking business, Robert Tavares from our building and safety is here. He could provide an update on that.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Great.
Good evening. For the property at 13025 Sierra Highway, again, I don't have any information on the trucking business itself. That's a DRP issue, but the last time I reported last month, things are pretty much nothing really new to report other than the property owner is going through the process to obtain permits. Plans are still in the process of being reviewed. So we'll just have to wait out that process. The other issue that I reported last month was the district attorney. We did have a meeting, and the next meeting was scheduled, I believe, for September of this year. And the reason why it's so far out is to allow for the permitting process to work itself out through the system, and hopefully the owner will be successful in obtaining all the permits required.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Perfect. We appreciate the report. Josie?
Right. That's all we have, because I already covered the North County GDD. So.
Okay. Perfect. The next thing I see here on Stephanie's is a report back from LA County staff regarding Sleepy Valley Water Company and the failed adjacent septic system. So we'll wait unless there's someone here that can give us an update on that.
Yeah, so at the last council meeting, Tigran Kachatarian, who works for public health in their, I think, land use group, said that they'd reached out to the homeowner and they'd sent them a series of information on programs where they can get low interest loans. I mean, this is basically what they did 18 months ago. It's been 2 years now since the septic was determined to have been failed. About 18 months ago in the summer of 2022, public health sent the homeowner information on the low interest loan program from RCAC. The homeowner told the county they were going to apply for it, and they never did. So the water company has done a couple of things. We've issued a public records request to the land use division so we can understand exactly what has or hasn't been happening. It's one thing to show up to a council meeting like this and tell us all is rosy and find that actually nothing or much of anything has actually happened. So we want to understand that. The county is still breathing down the water company's neck about taking our nitrate filtration system, actually removing it, which we're refusing to do. There's absolutely no point. We're not running it at the moment. It's actually bypassed from our system. The nitrate levels in the water are below 5 milligrams per litre, which is half of the state's 10 milligram per litre mandated level, and below the 5 milligrams per litre that public health put in place when the septic failed. And we simply don't feel that the alternative, which is that we run the filtration system to filter nitrates out of water that's already half of the MCL, is a very pragmatic idea, particularly when the county public health land use has taken no action to actually fix the problem. And what are we supposed to do? Reinstall it when the nitrates go back up again? The water company has asked the homeowner for permission to take a pumping truck in there from one of the local septic pumpers, and at our expense pump the septic out. The homeowner won't let us do that. And we've also started to look at whether we can involve the EPA in this, because the EPA has various programs in place to help septic systems that are failing or broken be maintained or replaced. So we're starting to look at that too. But we're certainly very underwhelmed that the county is banging us with a stick and just letting the homeowner do whatever the hell they want, like a bunch of wet weekends,
All right. Well, we'll wait and see what Stephanie has to say and see what we can hear something back from the health department, whoever's involved. We appreciate that update, Chris. Sorry that.
Okay, can anybody else not hear Don? Or am I the only one who's not hearing him?
Sorry. Oh,
no, okay. There we go.
My dog was barking here, so now I'm back live. I wanted to give my thanks to Chris for that update. And sorry, it wasn't a very pleasing update. But anyway, that's what it is. And we're off to the Assembly District report, which Assembly Member Tom Lackey, report given by Carlo Bazell, if Carlo is here. If Carlo is not here, his phone number is here, and his email address is here. So if anybody wants to contact Carlo, feel free. Next up, we have a report from the Senate District, Senator Scott Wilk, from Thomas Moreno. Thomas, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect.
All right, so SB 552, I got a small update from the Senate caucus that we work with, just basically reiterating the same thing I said at the last meeting that I was at in February. This 552 doesn't give the county any permissions to regulate, meter, or anything domestic wells for connections or less. That's the latest update I have on that. Question about that?
Oh, that's good. That's a report we wanted to hear.
Yeah, and but as just a disclaimer, we write the laws. Lawyers are the ones that all, the court system will decide if someone wants to argue that or someone wants to really try something. But like I said, the SGMA pretty much the Sustainable Groundwater Act pretty much excludes domestic wells from any regulatory laws in California right now until something with that changes. But like I said, 552 should not give county any permissions to regulate domestic wells for connections or less.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep. And then, so moving on to the latest updates with the rest of our bills. SB 1004, the Wildfire Settlement Tax Exemption Bill, has passed through the Appropriations Committee on April 8th and is now placed on the suspense file. The suspense file is any kind of bill to do with money, finances, or appropriations. And it passed 6-0, so we're hoping not to get any pushback when it comes to be read the second time, and hopefully the third time, and hopefully it passes. But the main number one thing with that bill is making sure the Bobcat fire, that committee is exempt from it, and then we'll work on our ways to everything else. That's if we can't get the whole thing passed, because Senator Wilk really wants this bill passed in the language that it is in, but it's so young, and we have such a long ways to go with the rest of the year for that. Hopefully, like I said, it'll pass. And that'll exempt, like I said, any state taxes from any settlements to do with SoCal Edison or any of the other utility companies that may have caused or may have been a primary cause of the fires. And then we have SB 1023, which is the CSU study bill. That passed through the Appropriations Committee as well on Wednesday, or on Monday. Another 6-0 placed on suspension. Those are the two biggest updates I have with this bill package that the senator has. Everything else is still waiting to be heard on in committee. And we're hoping to get a majority of his bills passed, if not all the bills. And then a quick update on the Cal Chamber job killer bills. Senator Wilk is opposed to every single one of the bills on Cal Chamber's job killer bill list. That's SB 903, which will ban the use of PFAS in all commercial and consumer products by 2030. Portantino's 1116, which increases unemployment insurance taxes to subsidize striking workers, as well as the whole rest of the list that's about 15 long that will take forever if I wanted to read. We are in a budget deficit right now. We are, according to the Legislative Analyst Office, we are $73 billion deficit. The governor's office has us at $38 billion deficit. We'll see what the numbers really are come sometime mid-May to early June, just depending on what all the revenue and $23 billion. That's the latest report I have. Any questions on any of those bills?
Looks to me like we had, not on those bills that you went through, but how about Senate Bill 1359? Are you familiar with that one at all?
1359. What's the name of it?
It's dumping on...
It's a dumping bill. That is still being waiting to be heard in committee. It will make it so that any private property has to get a permit to be able to dump on it, regardless of if it's private property or not. It increases the fine and makes it a misdemeanor to not follow that law. We're hoping that will combat any kind of illegal dumping situations we have on property that's bought for $5,000 and then someone dumps on it, has people pay that owner to dump on the property, and then make a $5,000 profit and leave the property and not have to deal with that ever again. It'll make it so that way any kind of dumping, I don't know the exact parameters around that. I know it's in the bill, but I don't have the exact numbers. But it'll just make it so that way we're hoping to combat any kind of illegal dumping.
Okay. All right. Looks like we have one question hand up by Cindy Grimes. Cindy, what was your question?
Thanks, Don. I'm curious if you know anything about the emergency bill that they're pushing forward to repeal, and pardon me, I don't know the numbers, I can't find my notes right at the moment, but the Electric Edison or anybody using income-based to do their rates.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know the exact status of that. I know the senator is vehemently opposed to any kind of income-based, public utility-based or public utility bills that are income-based, because it to him just it's just doesn't make sense, like why, as to why we would do that, and it's unfair to just a lot of the way it's written, the way it's going to be enacted. It's just he feels it's not fair for the average Californian, but he's opposed to the income qualified pay or income-based utility bills.
Okay.
I could get you the exact what the process, where it's at in the process. If you want to leave your email in the chat or follow up with me at my email, and I can give you I'll put my email in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll put my email in. My understanding is it's if this approved bill from 2000 or 2020, 2022 is to be enacted, it'll start this July, or it has the potential to start this July. So I think it's an emergency bill. Yes, I would love to have any updates on that, please. So
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
And then I'll put my contact information in the chat as well, just in case anyone else wants to follow up offline with anything.
Perfect. Wonderful. We appreciate the report.
Okay, Don, before you
yes.
go forward, I checked the chat and it looks like Tigran from Public Works or Building and Safety is here. He had connection issues. So, Tigran, are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, okay. I'm not from Public Works and Building Safety. I'm from Health Department Land Use Program. Currently, we have on-site wastewater treatment program. It was land use before. So what we have right now is we're waiting for the final authorization for the county is going to do a system evaluation for that property, because once the system is evaluated, we will have evidence for civil case against the owner. And then we were advised by district attorney and again by the county council. Currently, county council is reviewing and under her control that the evaluation obtained by Sleepy Valley cannot be admitted into evidence because it's 2 years old. And also the evaluation we require from the homeowner to obtain can be used as evidence because it would be self-incrimination since the owner paid for it. And then with evidence failing system, we can go to a judge for injunction to require the homeowner to complete the repairs or just vacate the premises. If all else fails, we could request the property to be placed in receivership to complete the repairs. These are the last resort scenarios if county council can't negotiate a resolution once we have the needed evidence. So this is what we have right now. We're hoping this is going to be solved the problem. We're in constant contact with the homeowner. We have a lot of emails sent to her, but she's not responding. She's not cooperating, and this is what we have right now. And county council looking for all the possible resolution on this, and then that's what we're waiting for. But on the system evaluation is in the final. We're waiting for final authorization. Once it's authorized, and we're going to go ahead and do it, and then it's going to take faster to see what's happening, what the homeowner's going to respond to this. this is all we have right now.
All
Thank
right.
you. Tigran, I have one question. As you noted, the homeowner is not particularly cooperative. And one of the amendments we made to the source water protection program was because we know this septic system has failed and we knew that it responded well to us, the water company. I know that the homeowner subsequently got it pumped in around about May of 2022, about 3 or 4 months after we had it done and had the tank inspected. One of the things that we want to do is get in there to the property and periodically, at our expense, pump out the septic tank so that it doesn't fill up and it doesn't continue to create this nitrate plume. I mean, our wells are 100 feet down and they're properly screened. They've got the right sanitary seal on them. And we feel that if we can at least keep ahead of doing that, we can keep the nitrate levels in a range which are acceptable to the county and also to the State Water Board. What assistance can you provide us with to force the homeowner to let us get in there and pump this septic tank out so we can mitigate the problem while all this plays out?
At this point, maybe all the questions have to be asked to county council. I have to ask her, and then if I think we have your email, I can email you the response.
Thank you.
And but it's the property has a ditch lines right now, and then it's failing, and then according to what current system evaluation we have, and it's failing, and they have to change it no matter what. And then I even called the water board. They say no matter what, they have to replace it. So, but I can talk to council, and then if you want to send an email, I can forward it to her. And that will be better, understanding. And then probably that's whatever you're offering and then asking, it can kind of solve the problem. And then.
Thank you. Could you put your email address in the chat, and I'll take it up with you offline so we can carry on with the meeting? I appreciate.
I will do it right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do it right now.
Thank you very much.
Tigran, we appreciate the report. Look forward to working with you in the future. Next up, we have 27th U.S. Congressional District report from Mike Garcia from Jackie Owens, if Jackie's here with us tonight. Jackie? I don't see Jackie. I don't hear Jackie. If she shows up, we'll come back to her. But we're going to move right on to the Santa Clara River Watershed Area Steering Committee, Measure W, Watershed Coordinator, Peter Massey. If Peter's here, but I believe Peter retired, didn't he? No. Yeah? Peter?
Peter did retire, but I was hoping that either Amanda or Heather would be here.
Okay.
But I don't. Do I see them? I don't see them on the participant list.
Okay. Well, if they show up, we can certainly come back to them. There, Chris?
Yes. If you could share my screen, it would be much appreciated.
Perfect.
Let's see.
I think you should be able to do that.
All right. So let's. This one's kind of interesting. Okay. Has everybody got that?
Not yet.
It's slowly coming up. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. So if you remember back in January, we'd had some disclosures, and it had this interesting little throwaway line in there where they confirmed that some infrastructure had been removed from the water system during the plan check process for the water mains, for the on-site stuff in phase 1. And we also identified that not only do the bonds from 2002 no longer exist under California law, but the developer has been dragging their feet, putting the replacement bonds in place, and in fact did the entirety of the water main installation along Sierra Highway and Valley Sage Road to the edge of the project without any bonding in place whatsoever. So I put a couple of public records requests in. There is another one I've got that's pending, and I don't have a reply to it yet. If you remember the grading that's going on site right now, the rough grading was under that $2.27 million rather odd-looking letter of credit from Credit Suisse Bank in Geneva, on behalf of a company in Cyprus. That theoretically renews every 12 months. So I've asked the county. I mean, we got a lot of pushback from the county when we asked them, to validate this for us when we met with them last year. So I just put a public records request in to just make sure that that thing is actually still in place, because as we stand here today, none of these replacement bonds are in place, and a developer with no prior experience of doing anything in the United States got to put a 20-inch water main in. And that, if you may have seen some news articles probably 3 or 4 weeks ago from the FBI looking at these different groups from China and the Middle East, Iran, Russia, who are adverse to American interests. So the fact that we have a 20-inch water main, 2 miles of it, that's connected to the county's municipal infrastructure that's right now is owned by a company in Russia, is of concern to agencies like the FBI and their cyber crimes and terrorism task forces. And that's out of Virginia. I know this because I actually listened to a presentation on this from agents in Virginia that was part of a water presentation. So this is why this is, I think, relevant to us. So let's start off in 2021. This is the front sheet for the plans for the water system. Now, this is the in-tract water system that will provide water to people's homes in the first phase of the project, the 68 homes. And what you can see is in 2021, it described the project as a 12-inch distribution water main. A distribution water main is one that water meters are connected to deliver water to people's homes and put water in fire hydrants. And also, that was for something that they reference as 3758 PZ. And then there's separately some transmission water mains that are 12, 16, and 20 inches in size for another project, part of the project called 3483 PZ. In April 2022, and I covered this in January, RTG signed this agreement with the County Public Works to fulfill these requirements that they have to fulfill so that District 37 can actually go ahead and give them water when this is all done. And it's a whole series of storage tanks, booster pumps, and a pumping house, and however many linear feet of different size water main, plus fire hydrants and enough water to meet the fire flow requirements. If you look at the plans from April of 2021, this is something you'll be familiar with. This is the recorded portion of the phase 1. Phase 2 is on the left-hand side at the end of Avenida Vasquez. What I've highlighted here in red are a series of things. If you start in the top sort of right-hand corner there, you've got a 1.78 million gallon water tank that's actually on that piece of property that's subject to the easement dispute with Mr. Estes. That has a 16-inch water main that then feeds down to the pumping house, which is way down in the bottom right corner. That's Valley Sage Road there, and there's a pumping house with booster pumps in there that then push the water around the project. And in this case, if you look at that green dot, that's lot 70. That's a 600,000 gallon water tank that's up on Lookout Drive. If you go close to the project site on the freeway, you'll see them leveling out the top of a hillside. That's where that tank is going to sit. And then in the other red boxes are a series of references to booster pumps that they're going to push that water around, and also 16-inch and 12-inch ductile iron pipe water mains that will run along the project. Now, the 3483 PZ project is all related to phase 2. So the water comes in along Valley Sage Road from the municipal water supply, and that 20-inch main goes into the pumping house and then gets pushed up to lot 70, which feeds these 68 homes with gravity-fed water. And then the other parts of the water main, the 12, 16, and 20-inch lines, go along Avenida Vasquez, sort of parallel to the freeway, towards phase 2. And obviously phase 2 is where the other 217 homes and the wastewater treatment plant are. So that's how things stood in 2021 and early 2022 when RTG signed this agreement with the county to do all this work. But what you then see in this email exchange from one of the civil engineers working on the project with the Waterworks District from September of 2022, they're basically saying, look, could you take out all of the infrastructure for the water that's going to go into phase 2? We've only got that 600,000 gallon tank being built in phase 1. And this is kind of interesting. You know, they're basically saying that with all the hurdles that this project is facing, we're not sure how long it's going to take before phase 2 can be built. And we'd rather have this line built if and when phase 2 comes in. So this was District 37 reaching out to the engineers on behalf of RTG and saying, hey, we'd like you to take all that phase 2 infrastructure out right now. Because we're not sure what's going on with phase 2. And internally, what you see is some communications within the Waterworks District saying, well, look, the reality is that if you look at what's been approved, the conditional use permit is for phase 1. So we can't really have phase 2 water infrastructure sitting in phase 1 because there's no conditional use permit that's been approved yet that allows them to put that in. None of phase 2 has actually been recorded. So, you know, to use a Shakespearean quote, you know, RTG doth protest through KWC engineers. And so, look, you know, we'd really like to build it now because we don't have to rip up the streets. It's going, you know, we can put this in, and we've got these other electrical utilities, stormwater drains, sewers, etc., and it's going to avoid us having to come back and rip up Avenida Vasquez and whatever we need to get up to that 1.8 million gallon water tank on Lookout Drive or Sunset Way, and burden whatever the community is when all this happens with all this, you know, civil engineering work. And the county came back on the 29th of September and said, yeah, that's fine, but we've had a chat internally, and, you know, we don't want empty water mains sitting on that project until phase 2 is actually built. So that's how we ended up in this position. So now, if you look, this is probably the most recent version of the plans I was given under the public records request. This was from May 2023, last year, just under a year ago, and you can see that the front sheet now has no reference to it's a distribution water main, but there is no transmission capability on there for phase 2 whatsoever. This is how the plan looked in May last year. I highlighted the section in green because it shows that they're still going to try, in this particular one, construct a 12-inch water line to service the phase 2. However, I did point out to the people at Public Works in an email a couple of weeks ago that that's pretty inconsistent because it should be designated as future, because that is, I said, thanks very much. These plans are still in plan check, so they're still not yet approved. And we will, you know, we'll take it on board and do whatever we're going to do with it. So the other thing that I noticed in these plans, and I think we probably need to just raise this with the county, is if you remember, the original approval in 1994 said that, you know, you have to build this out with dry sewers. So when you build phase 1, even though you're going to use septic systems, you're going to have to put dry sewers in and around the project so that when this wastewater treatment plant gets built, within 6 months of it becoming operational, you can connect to it and you can abandon the septic system. So that's essentially what the next 2 slides are all about. However, when you look at the cross sections of the streets in that water plan, that red circle is the 12-inch water main that feeds the 68 homes. There's another green circle next to it, which is the proposed future 12-inch water main that would serve and run up to phase 2 and push water into there. And then the larger green circle to the right-hand side is the stormwater sewer, which is either a 24 or 36-inch stormwater, a stormwater drain coming out of the project, taking road runoff, etc., down to these ponds that are on the southern border of the project. What isn't in there is the sewer position. And I would imagine that this would be quite important because, you know, just looking at it from a water perspective, if you put a water main in, your sewer pipe has to be at least 10 feet away, and it has to be at least a foot below the level of the water pipe. And that's to stop things like hydraulic suction, where the pressure in the water main reduces to a level, you've got a leak in the sewer pipe, and suddenly it starts sucking sewage in from outside the water main into your potable water supply. So it's not in this plan. And I think we need to make a request of the county to get a copy of the sewer improvement plan, just to make sure that these dry sewers are still in place. Because otherwise you'll run into the situation where potentially in the future a wastewater treatment plant does get built and somebody says, well, we can't connect to it because we never put the dry sewers in. My point is simply this: if they've ripped out the infrastructure for water for phase 2 at this phase, what have they done with the sewer improvement plan as well? We know that there is one because it's bonded. It's the first one in this list here. They need about $1 million worth of bonding for that. But with the removal of the bonding requirement that was about $7.2 million, they discounted that down to zero. The county did. The developer still needs to come up with about $14 million worth of bonding for these other parts of the project. Now, I can understand why the developer hasn't come up with any bonding. I mean, why would you? Your plans are still in plan check. You're trundling around on 163 acres with a bulldozer, ostensibly making it look like you're doing something. And all this stuff is still running in the background. So when Art Vanderveers from the county proudly announces that, we haven't given them any permits yet, they couldn't give them a permit because the plans aren't approved. So it's really a rather ridiculous statement for the county to make. And I think, it's indicative of the sort of clandestine way in which this project has been run by Public Works in the background. Speaking of which, this is what the information about the bond discounts kind of revealed. If you remember back in December, they revised the bonding. They said, look, you guys need to come up with these new numbers. It's $20 million, I think, or thereabouts. And they were saying, well, look, we've already put this 20-inch water main in along Sierra Highway, and we're well underway with the length on Valley Sage. Why do we need to bond that? And the county came back and said, well, we'll give you a discount. You can have 80% off for the section on Sierra Highway, and we'll figure out a discount for the rest of it. So this was something that we'd run through back in January this year when I made a presentation. But then the last set of disclosures really gave us a bit more insight to that. So Sycand Engineering, who are sort of the interface between the county and the developer for this project, they came back and said, look, we want to get this bonding issue figured out. We've done the work. We want to get a discount. And this is the last remaining issue to obtaining the replacement bonds. Not so sure I agree with that. So then you see an email on February 13th, after this email came in, this email included Art Vanderveers and a couple of other people from the county on the copy list. And Art Vanderveers reached out to a guy called Russ Bryden, who is actually Assistant Deputy Director over at the Waterworks for LA County. And in his best Joan Rivers voice said, can we talk? Nothing more. Can we talk? So on February 13th, they obviously had a conversation, and Russ Bryden came back and said, well, hey, look, I get involved in development stuff, but I'll talk to her and figure out what's going on, and I'll get back to you. So then Vandervis went back to Ross Biden in response to that and said, well, look, I'm just trying to get all the bonds in place, and this is the last remaining one, and they don't want to do a full bond for a project that's almost complete because we let them do it without any bond in place to begin with, and we've told everybody else that those bonds from 2002 are valid, and they're not really under the law, but we're not going to admit to that, but we certainly got on our bikes and pedaled very hard when they pointed that out to us. If we can at least get a reduced amount, I'd like to get it resolved so we have one less outstanding issue with the community. Now that is some messed up logic. Hey, let's give these guys a discount on a bond so we keep the community happy. I don't understand the logic there. I simply don't understand why this guy is going into bat on behalf of the developer. So then this got forced into or pushed down to a lady called Araceli Aramillo. She's been a senior civil engineer working on all this infrastructure that you see in those maps there. And she came back and said, look, it's done, so we're not recommending you need a bond for that. But the Valley Sage water main isn't complete yet, and we're simply not allowed to give bonding reductions on projects that aren't complete. And that's just how it works. And the contractors got quite a way to go. So she highlighted those reduced prices in the bonds and their recommendations. And then internally, Araceli is going back to a lady called Sylvia Arachiga, who I think is an executive or administrative assistant within that group of public works, land development, and saying, look, basically she's saying, why are you asking us? Because you guys are the ones that have the discretion over reducing bonding. Why do we need to get involved in all this? But anyway, now you've asked, here are my recommendations for the replacement bonds. So it's a very, very odd series of exchanges there that I'm intrigued by, shall I say. Now, in terms of the next things that we do, I actually think that we should get the current version. What we know is this water plan for phase one isn't yet approved. So I think I'll just send a public records request in and say, give me version 9, whatever it is you're on at the moment. I think we should ask for a copy of the sewer improvement plan just to make sure that these dry sewers are actually going to be in there. I was a bit, as I explained, perplexed as to why they weren't. I think we need to look at the plans for the storage tank and pump house, because that pump house down at the corner of Valley Sage Road has pumps not just for phase one but for phase two in it. And they'll build it big enough, I hope, for the extra pumps. But the plans that Hunt Sacker is putting in place will hopefully give us that information. And we've certainly had no information, no confirmation, no voluntary information from Art Vandervis that those replacement bonds are in place yet. So the reason I think we need to be concerned about this is that essentially what happened here is that water system, that wastewater treatment plant that sits up in phase two, this part of the next part of the project that's theoretically going to be recorded one day between now and 2027, it needs water from this water main to function. The other 271 homes need water. 217 homes need water to function. I don't understand the logic of ripping out all this phase two water infrastructure, and it leaves you with this dichotomy because the home we've contended, or some people have contended for a long time, that the objective here is just to build the phase one, jam it in with septic systems, and leave it there with septics, just like Sierra Colony was left with the 61 homes there that were supposed to be connected to a wastewater treatment plant. We also know that the two documents that were used in 1994 basically pointed to each other saying, well, all the surveys for the wastewater treatment and the groundwater surveys and whether 68 septics are going to impair the groundwater supply are over here, and the other document says, no, they're actually over here. So they never actually got done. And now what we're doing is we're ripping out a very critical part of the infrastructure from phase one that would actually drive the engine that's intended to replace those septic systems. So this is a big mess that the county's creating. I think we've spelled it out very clearly. I think we have a letter that we've approved to write to Supervisor Barger. I think once we got this last little piece of information in about the grading permit and whether that letter of credit is still valid or whether there's questions about it, we'll be ready to pull the trigger. But this is highly, to see the county themselves admitting that they're unsure whether phase 2 is going to go ahead, and making sure that infrastructure that was critical to the approval of this thing to begin with is getting stripped out of the project now is just plain wrong.
Thank you, Chris. So, at this point, my concern is the expertise on the town council's perspective to review and make determinations as to the completeness of the plans. In other words, as far as making a request for what has been approved, I think that request we could make. But as far as actually determining the adequacy, I mean, what's the town council's feeling toward this whole situation?
Don, if I can add, it's quite binary. A sewer improvement plan should have Avenida Vasquez, Lookout Drive, Sunset Way, and it should have a pipe running around it, just like the water pipes are running around it, a cross-section of where that sewer pipe is going to go underneath the streets. And it's, the evaluation is, does the sewer plan have that pipe or not?
Okay. So,
and it's going to be on the plans, or it isn't.
Okay. So our concern is that there really isn't a dry sewer plan, it sounds like. Is that correct?
I don't know, because you would expect, because of the importance of the location of the sewer line relative to the water mains, you would expect to see that sewer pipe, the 8-inch sewer pipe, in the cross sections. There are some references to an 8-inch sewer pipe on some of the subsequent diagrams,
right.
But because it's part of a separate plan, this sewer improvement plan, it's weird how they package this up, because you've got KWC engineers who's done all this piping work, the 20-inch mains, the 16-inch mains, but when you get to the pumping house and the water tanks, they basically defer and say, that is being done by Hunsaker and Associates. So Hunsaker has the responsibility to get those plans drafted and approved by the county. And then presumably there's another entity that's produced the sewage plans that are subject to that sanitary bonding that's on there. I just want to make sure, on behalf of the people who could be impacted by all of this, who are drawing the groundwater from around this project, that sewer system is actually still in there, because otherwise you create a lot of objections down the road that shouldn't be objections. Oh, we can't do that because it's too expensive. We've got to dig up all the streets, put a sewer line in, get it all permitted. It should be going in right now because it was a condition of approval back in 1994. And we just need to dot the I's and cross the T's on this. And I only do this because they pulled out all the water infrastructure to feed phase 2. And that really wasn't what this project, when it was approved in 1994, was a single project. It wasn't this little bit from over here and this little bit from over here, and we'll record that when we feel like it. So all these things were interdependent, and they're starting to pull it apart now as if it's two separate projects, which it isn't.
And certainly it wasn't designed, from the town council's perspective, it wasn't designed to where they would do phase 1 and stop. Because at that point, because that we were as a council, we were assured that the sewer plant or the water treatment plant was going to go in, and that they wouldn't affect any of the local groundwater, which was one of our major concerns. And the fact that it sounds to me like if they're saying, remove the piping that's going to be there for phase 2, because phase 2 is non-existent at this point, that leaves up a bit of concern that they might just do phase 1 and, like you say, put in septic systems, and there'll be septic systems forever, and there never will be a sewer. Now, I know
Yeah.
sewer plans are totally different than water plans because the sewage has to go downhill, and oftentimes it does take various routes so that they can maintain that gravity flow. And if they're going to have a lift station that's going to lift the sewage, that's a major undertaking. Totally different from pumping water. There's water you can pump, you can go up and down hills all over the place and not have a concern. But sewage is different. But I would say it wouldn't hurt to make these requests. What's your feeling on it, Mary?
Chris, can you put up your presentation again and go back 3 or 4 slides from the end? There was one slide that said remove the sewer lines. It was up towards the top. It was in an email.
Yeah, let me.
I think they wanted to remove the water line, is what it referred to, Mary. I don't know that they had the word sewer. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is all about. So this is coming from District 37.
Okay.
And they're asking specifically to remove all the distribution infrastructure for phase 2 of the project that would run under phase 1.
And that has to do with the incoming water.
Yeah, so there's a 20-inch main that comes into that pump house.
Right.
And then the pump house will probably have a pressure regulator in it and push it through the 12-inch main that runs around the project to each individual of the 68 residences. They've kept that, but everything else, there's 20-inch, 16. There's a 1.8 million gallon storage tank. That's gone.
So, Chris, when I'm looking at this, it looks like the engineers said that the developer would rather build it now, and they wanted to not have to cut up the streets for phase 2. Am I reading that correctly?
You are reading that correctly. And the county pushed back and said, no, we don't want an empty water main sitting on that project connected to our network. And I can completely understand why they would do that.
But, okay, one more again. Keep going. Okay, hold there. Okay. This is, maybe I misread it, but I know in Sierra Colony, which was tied to this project from the very beginning, back in the 80s, Sierra Colony, in their 61 homes, has got dry sewers in the ground.
Yeah.
And these 61 homes, or 68 homes, should have dry sewers in the ground.
Correct.
And
it's this diagram here that caught my attention, because this is the cross section of the different streets, and it shows the stormwater piping, and it shows the one 12-inch water main that they will build, and the 12-inch water main in the future that they will build as and when phase 2 is recorded and approved. But there's no sign in there of the sewer line. And I would anticipate, just through my State Water Board certified water operator training, the location of a sewer line relative to a water main is pretty critical.
Right.
And it would strike me that, I'm not suggesting that these plans don't exist. I'm suggesting we need to go just get a look at them to make sure that something else hasn't happened here where the dry sewer lines have disappeared from this too, because those dry sewer lines need to be in a similar way to this storm drain. They need to be at least 10 feet from that proposed 12-inch water main laterally, and they need to be at least 12 inches below it in terms of the surface grade.
Yeah, well, on the top of that page, it says Phase 1 street cross-sections in Waterwork Districts 37. In other words, they're pertaining strictly at this point for the incoming water. But I agree. You'd think that they would also show in the same plan, or there must be a plan there, and I think that needs to be our request.
Yes.
Is there a plan showing the dry sewer? At this point, I can see where they wouldn't include the dry sewer to Waterwork Districts 37, because that basically is a whole different, a whole different set of requirements and whatnot. But I think that you may be onto something here, and I think that we should request clarification because of our concerns.
Yeah, and when I look at this, that the big circle is stormwater.
Yes. So that's drainage coming from the streets and the guttering in the houses. It's basically rain runoff.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So when I see that, I don't know that would have really needed to be included for Waterworks District, but
That's true. That's true.
I look at that as if they've got that, then they should have the proposed sewer lines in that same.
Now, why wouldn't that same set of drawings?
Yeah.
And that's my question and concern. I'm not saying it's not been done.
Right.
You're right, Don. It would be the sanitation district that would be approving these plans, not Waterworks. But I don't understand why they've got a storm drain on there,
Right.
but no sewer, because the sewer is potentially more contentious to the main water lines because of what's inside it.
That's right. That's right. It can pollute a whole lot quicker than a storm drain.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, does someone want to make a motion as far as what wants to be in this letter?
Look, I don't think we actually need a motion.
Okay.
I mean, I can just, if you're cool with it, I'll just submit a public records request to Public Works and ask for a copy of the sewer improvement plan for Tract 508, 501.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Anybody have any other concerns or questions toward that? Doesn't sound like it.
Once again, Chris, I don't know how you do it.
I know. That's what I was going to bring up. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
I don't know why I do it.
We didn't get to that. But we
Well,
thank you.
I appreciate everything that
thank
you're
you for
doing
your
to dig
efforts.
on this.
Yeah, it's something.
We've got to watch this like a hawk, otherwise,
Yeah. No,
if we
I know.
don't, and it goes the way it looks like it might go at the moment, we could have a whole bunch of residents sitting on the southern border of that project with groundwater that they can't use anymore.
That's the concern.
And that is not cool.
Yeah, that's not what anybody thought was going to happen, nor did they ever agree to it. So that's the concern. Is basically asking them, hey, this is what was agreed to. Time to keep up with your part of the agreement. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate
Right.
that.
Thank you for the time.
Okay. Do we have any